Hello and welcome to Soul in Balance, the place to get your regular solar system news. And in this video, we will be going over the new moon in Aries that'll be happening on the 24th of March at 8:28 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, there is a lot of craziness going on out in the world, so much fear and so much uncertainty. There are so many people trying to grasp for stability right now, and there isn't such a thing. The only thing we can find stability in at the moment is change and within ourselves. And I've been saying this since I think 2018, is to find stability within ourselves, ground within ourselves, and understand that the only thing that is for certain right now is change. And all of us are being asked to stop. It's a forced stop to assess our lives, and especially on an emotional and mental level, spiritually and physically. You know, what is going on in the world around us and what is going on internally. We can see a lot of, our hidden traumas coming up at this time, especially if we've been in a position where we haven't processed any of, our childhood wounding or any of our wounding throughout our lives. We're finding with this complete stop that people are having all these traumas come up, where we've seen people freak buying and, abusing each other just for toilet paper and things like that. This is just absolutely unnecessary. But at the end of the day, it is a time of just stopping and reflecting and not buying into fear. Because another thing too with this CV, nothing brings down the immune system quicker than fear. So if we're in a state of fear, this is going to triple or double our chances of getting sick as well. And then being in a state of panic. And at the end of the day, if we can find calmness within ourselves, find calmness in the instability, and come home to ourselves, come home to our own actual home, then we can find, what we need within ourselves to be stronger as well. So stay tuned and I'll bring you the rest of the video. If you'd like to stay up to date with the cosmic weather, make sure you subscribe. Okay, so this new moon is not going to be the massive new start that we would usually have at an equinox or the start of the astrological calendar, or a new moon in Aries. This is a new moon where we're all going to be triggered. We are all going to have to reflect on our wounding, because this new moon is also joined Chiron, the wounded healer. So we have the moon, the sun, and Chiron. So Chiron is where we are all wounded collectively, and it is in Aries. Aries is the warrior, how we move forward, how we get our needs met. And especially with all the CV stuff going on and the forced closures and the lockdowns, this is very much going to highlight where we are all wounded internally, how we've been blocked from moving forward and being who we are and who we want to be. So this is a very triggering and deeply difficult new moon. It is probably going to feel more like a full moon, if anything. We're really being asked at this time to take a new approach on how we see our wounds, and a new way to adjust or address things that affect us. How can we move past where we are wounded? How can we change and do things in a different way? Maybe this has affected your business, this forced closure of everything, and you're being triggered of, some kind of childhood wounding, and, you're having to stay at home and look at new ways to make money, or new ways to adapt, or go through some of that wounding that you've experienced because you've been highly triggered right now. There are a lot of people that are not coping at the moment. It is such a difficult time. Lucky for me, my school's online. I work predominantly online. I prefer to stay home anyway, because the energies out in the world are fairly difficult. So for me, I'm a bit of a, it hasn't really affected me that much, and I consider myself really blessed in that way. I think I've been a lot more calmer than most people out there. But yeah, if you're an introvert, this type of situation probably hasn't affected you very much. But for the rest of the people out in the world, this can be extremely difficult, and we need to be reaching out our compassion and understanding to those who are not coping at the moment, to those who are losing everything, you know, so, and especially people that have families and things like that. It is such a difficult time in the world, but it is all asking us to stop and reflect. Where do we need to address, you know, situations in our life that we haven't addressed before? And I know from speaking to my own clients that some of the people that have had to come home and not being able to work have sat there and they've thought, I don't even like that job anyway. I don't even know why I've been doing it. I'm not even happy in that job. So it can be a time of, you know, is this what I want to do with my life? Am I passionate about what I'm doing? Does it actually make me happy? And for others, you know, it can just be a deeply, you know, triggering and traumatizing situation that is going on in the world at the moment. But we are really being called at this new moon with Chiron to sit and reflect on what is going on internally. You know, where are we wounded with getting our needs met? Where are we wounded with starting things and having confidence? So it really is a time that we all just stop, and we've actually all been forced to stop. So there is no real other choice other than to stop and to reflect and come close to those who matter. Like, we still have the North Node in Cancer that is asking us to go towards our feelings, go to our home, you know, go to what feels right, you know, connect to the people that care about us. So at the end of the day, we are really just being forced to stop and address our lives and address what comes up. It is so important, you know, especially with all these things happening, that we really do listen to the universe and what's happening in the world, just to stop and feel what's going on inside, so we can move forward and have a brighter future. Because at the end of the day, this will lift, this will change. And I do believe, you know, at the end of all this, I do believe in like silver linings, that there is going to be something positive that comes from this. Okay, so there is an Arabic term or quote that I would like to say, which is al-kulha wa tawakkal, and this means to trust in God but to tie your camel. Now, Rick Levine also mentioned this, which is, you know, is to take proper precautions, like not be in fear, have trust in the universe, have trust in yourself, but then make sure you are, you know, doing something about this, not being in a state of fear, because like I said, fear is what, you know, brings down your immune system, so then you are more susceptible to things. So if any of you that don't know, I work and study in natural medicine, and I just thought that I would just run a few herbs that, you know, that can help boost your immune system, as well as help with your lungs as well. And if we look at, you know, what the metaphysical anatomy aspects of the lungs and illness, this is grief. And this is also in Chinese medicine as well. The lungs represent, you know, our state of joy. So if we're in a state of grief, this affects our lungs. So you'll see a lot of people that smoke have issues with grief, like me myself, you know, I smoke. So yeah, there's you know, there's issues here with grief. And, you know, because it is a collective thing, we are all in a state of grief at the moment. So some herbs that I would like to say for the lungs, if you are worried about this. Now, I don't want anyone to go to the shops and freak out and buy as much as you can, because it's not necessary. At the moment, there's tons of fruit and vegetables at the shop, tons of herbs at the shop. Everyone seems to be buying toilet paper and canned food and pasta and all that type of stuff. And any of these herbs you can buy online and get delivered to you, or you can probably even have it in your home. So for lungs, we have thyme, oregano oil, or just oregano, eucalyptus oil, asparagus root, licorice root, and fenugreek. Now these will help clear the lungs, because CV affects the lungs. Now also here to help boost your immune system is garlic, vitamin C, echinacea, thuya, astragalus, ginger, and chili. Now, I just want to point out as well, with garlic. Now, with garlic, it has a lot of healing properties, but once that garlic is opened, the healing properties start to evaporate. So I particularly do not suggest getting garlic tablets or cooking with garlic, as much as that it's good. It doesn't have the healing benefits as raw garlic. So if you were to get garlic, just chop it up into like tablet size and then just swallow it and go to bed. You know, vitamin C and things like that are really easy to get. You know, things like chili, cooking with chili, just to keep your immune system up. This stuff fights off bacteria as well. So there is tons and tons of natural therapies available that will help keep your immune system up, that will help clear your lungs, as well as what's important is dealing with grief. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of Yvette Rose. She has this book, Metaphysical Anatomy. So I just want to read some of the aspects around viruses and lungs. Okay, so we have, lungs. So the emotional reason or the emotional element that affects the lungs is grief, depression, sorrow, lack of joy, feeling smothered or controlled by those you rely on for love. And we also have here the emotional cause of virus is worthlessness, disappointment, self-punishment, poor personal boundaries, or having to fight for respect and understanding. So at the moment, we are all obviously having this problem if it's affecting us globally. And then we just had all the bushfires, especially in Australia. You know, with all these trees burning down, it affects our lungs. And the same happened in, you know, Brazil with the Amazon, which, you know, was classed as the lungs of the planet. So there's definitely a major theme going on around grief and the lungs. So I just also want to quickly read another few aspects about the lungs, which I thought was really important as well. So it's got here, holding on to old grief and sorrow. So a lot of us repress our feelings, we push them down and we soldier on, and we just don't address what's going on, and we operate in a state of avoidance. But we're still operating and, you know, using this pattern of avoiding pain, which usually always brings us that pain back. So this is a time for, you know, processing old grief and sorrow. It's also a time where we could be fighting for our freedom, because it's also got here, fighting for freedom. And that's the thing, like, if we were fighting for freedom as a little kid and now we're an adult, we're just repeating those patterns. So where in ourselves can we free ourselves? Free ourselves from social conditioning and what our parents said, or the negative talk towards ourselves. How can we free ourselves of this first? Because whatever is going on internally, we will see in our reality. So this is a time of freeing ourselves, maybe from ourselves as well. Another few things here is feeling suffocated by the old or current grief, which is pretty much the same thing. And then shame related to trauma. Now, there is so much shame when it comes, or shaming in relation to trauma. We've grew up and lived in societies where there's a lot of shaming, you know, like you can't have your feelings. You're supposed to just soldier on, go to work, put on a happy face and not feel how you feel, because feelings are classed as just like negative and, you know, not happy and positive. And this is just a load of shit. Like, we really need to be getting in touch with ourselves. And with this new moon, with Chiron, we need to be moving in and sorting out all this stuff inside. So this is definitely a time of, you know, trusting in God, trusting in the universe, trusting in ourselves, but at the same time taking precautions to be safe. So yes, okay, let's get some cards for this new moon. Okay. But yeah, there's really a lot of things I would love to be able to talk about, but there is a lot of restrictions and monetization and things like that that goes on YouTube, where people that voice their opinion can just have their YouTube channel shut down. So I won't say what I think, but you know, if you're a conspiracy theorist like me, you'll be having a field day of what is going on. I will leave some links below of some information that I've gathered about what's going on at the moment, because there is always a massive agenda of what goes on in our world by those in power, the elite, the people that run this country, that own pretty much 95% of the wealth and make all the decisions. So yes, there is a lot of, you know, information going around. There's a lot of fear going around, but it is a time of not believing in that fear. It's probably a good time to not watch the TV, to not buy into what everybody is saying and getting into the hysteria of things. It really is a time of just remaining calm, you know, like finding peace within yourself, and especially in your home, you know, like we should all be feeling safe within our home and safe within, you know, our scope around us and what we do. But yeah, at this time, it's just such a crazy time. I have so much compassion for everybody, and we all need to be extending that compassion out to everybody. Okay, alrighty. So the cards I have are emotions, attachment, and perfection of your life. Okay, alrighty. So emotions. This is a time for going into our emotions, especially with the sun and the moon and Chiron all together at this equinox, at this new moon in Aries, at this, you know, start of the astrological calendar. It is a time for going into our emotions, especially with the North Node in Cancer, which is telling us to go home to our feelings, you know, go home inside, move forward inside. So yes, we are all going to be highly triggered with our emotions. We all need to stop and reflect on our emotions at this time and find a new way of processing things, a new way of moving forward, a new way of getting into our passions. You know, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and I kind of see that as divine timing and the universe stepping in to say, hey, you've got a higher calling. You know, this is not what you should be doing. You need to be going in, loving yourself, working on yourself, and connecting to your passions, connecting to your higher self, and moving forward in a direction that is of service to this planet. Because we are all here at this time as souls to bring about change. We are all here bringing about this new earth, because we are all here for that reason. We have all been divinely guided, and we've all chosen to be on the planet at this time. And we have attachment, letting go of restrictions and fear. So this can be letting go of our external attachments. What have we been holding on to make ourselves feel good inside? How are we not making ourselves feel good inside? You know, we might be having to let go of a relationship or a job or something external from us that was bringing us happiness, but we need to be finding happiness within ourselves. We cannot be any longer looking outside of ourselves for happiness. It is just not going to be possible, and it's going to be harder and harder and harder as we go along. We are all being called to go inside and be our own source of wellness, happiness, stability, and self-love. We really need to be doing that right now, and the universe is just smashing us more and more and more to be our own biggest joy, not to be looking outside of ourselves to feel good, to feel validated. No one on this planet is, their worth or their value is not placed on something external from ourselves or at all. Like, we are souls. We are not just this 3D reality. So there's nothing at all that can ever reflect to us how much we are worth. We are worth so much. We do not need anyone else's opinion or validation or any of those things to feel of value. So it is a time of seeing that. It's a time of waking up and seeing our worth and letting go of these attachments. like they're just fading away and breaking away anyway, because they're an illusion. It's an illusion of that we need this kind of validation or self-worth. So yeah, this is definitely a time of letting go of attachments, letting go of fear, and letting go of these restrictions. And lastly, we have perfection of your life. Now, this internal direction that we're all going, these forced closures, these forced coming ins, is really going to help us perfect our lives, because obviously everything that we've had to let go of is not of service to us. So if we move inside, if we do the work, we're going to be perfecting our life, perfecting ourselves. It is so important that we go in and perfect our self-worth, perfect who we are. So definitely at this time, I hope this message helps. I hope these cards were of value to you. But it's definitely a time of, going into our emotions, letting go of attachments, and perfecting our lives. Okay, so I'm all jittery doing this video. I had a big ass coffee, especially with the moon in Pisces. It just makes me want to sleep. So I've had to just have a coffee to wake up, and now I'm just like wired. Anywho, so I'll get into some of the astro aspects. So this new moon is squaring the North Node in Cancer, which is going to be, bringing up that tension and, what needs to change and give and meet in the middle, where it comes to moving forward and then, being in our emotions. So there is going to be this push pull of, I want to do this, but then these emotions are holding me back, or, things like that. Like, we need to just be kind of, meeting in the middle with our direction and our emotions and finding happiness there, going to what feels good. And we also have a sextile from this new moon over to Saturn that's in Aquarius now. And another interesting fact, that at the equinox, which sets the tone for this whole year, the moon was in Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is the humanitarian. It's having a bit of detached perspective. Now, this is a time of, extending out that helping hand, using forgiveness, and, coming together as a species, coming together as a whole and helping each other, being that helping hand, helping bring about change. Now, this could be just within your immediate home environment. This could be out into the world. This could be, with friendship groups or whatever it is. And especially because it is in Aquarius, it's a time for, expanding on the internet, especially because we're all at home, because Aquarius does represent the internet and the higher mind. So, I've seen so many people now, like on Facebook, doing, healing videos online and doing these live events and things like that, which is absolutely amazing, just to help people while they're at home. There is so much going on that is really giving that helping hand, and people making the most of this situation, like bringing what they do online. It is so good to see how diverse and how people can just adapt to change, and we all need to be adapting to change at this time. And it is a time for forgiveness, forgiving those people in our lives and looking at what really matters, which is, everybody on this planet, which is our well-being. Like, for me, I've always been the black sheep of the family, and then to have my mom and my dad both call me in the same day, and everything just be really great, and everybody caring about everybody is just amazing. Like, for me, I just had the best day yesterday, knowing that, my family were all reaching out to me. So this is a time for definitely extending forgiveness. Now, if there is people that have really hurt you, you do not have to have them in your life, but you can for yourself extend that forgiveness, unprison yourself from, past traumas or situations that have hurt you. This is not a time for holding on to our old hurt. This is a time of cleansing and healing and growing, because most situations where we have been hurt has just been a lesson. So we grow. We're all souls. We're all connected. We're all here on a mission, helping each other evolve. So if I can say one thing, it is to forgive, work on forgiveness, work on compassion, and work on extending a helping hand and being that humanitarian out in this world, adapting to change, bringing your business online if you can, starting up that business that you've always wanted to do, but you couldn't because you were at work. So this is a time we're all being kind of called in to, really look at what we want to do. How can we really make change in this world? Like, I also work in a health clinic, and I had a guy come in and tell me that he couldn't work, but he's really interested in nutrition. And I said, well, this is the time for you to start studying online and do nutrition. And he was like, yeah, actually, I might do that, like, I've been more passionate about this than my actual job. So at the end of the day, make the most of this. Look at this as a blessing. Like, we are all being given an opportunity to come in and do what we're passionate about. Have that time out to stop and heal, to stop and reflect and be who we've always wanted to be who we've come onto this planet to be. So at this time, if I can suggest anything, is definitely, forgiveness, working on, giving a helping hand and, giving compassion where you can. But that is it for me. If you would like a reading of your birth chart or with your relationship aspects at the moment, please email me or go to my website. I'm happy to help and give guidance in what you should be doing with your career, with your passions, and what will best help you and humanity at this time. So that is it for me. Please have a fantastic new moon in Aries, and I will see you all soon.